Are you ready? We're ready. Who is your first witness? Mr. Hamilton. We're ready for the jury. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're ready to begin again. Please raise your right hand and take the oath. Glen Hamilton, having been duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows. If you will have a seat, please, and state your full name for the record and spell your last name also. Glen Hamilton. Good morning, Mr. Hamilton. Good morning. How are you doing this morning? All right. Mr. Hamilton, do you have any nicknames or monikers that others might know you as? Yes, Gino or 456. Gino, I see. Maybe from Glenn. What's 456? 456 is a code I use on a pager, so whenever I page somebody, I used to always use the code 456. That's like in the pre-cell phone era when pagers... Exactly. Mr. Hamilton, you're wearing the now familiar to the juror's orange suit. Are you in custody now? Yes, I am. For what? Conspiracy to sell powder cocaine. You say powder cocaine? That's in contrast to what? Crack cocaine. Have you pled guilty to something, or you're simply charged? I pled guilty to it. Where? In Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Federal case or state case? It was a federal case. Have you been sentenced? Yes, I have. What was your sentence? 15 years. We'll get into more detail later, but the cocaine that you got in trouble for, where did you get that cocaine? From here in Atlanta, Georgia. From whom? The defendant, Mr. Il Fleming. You called him Il Fleming? Yes. Do you know the person you just called Il Fleming's full name or real name? No, I do not. What did you typically call him as? Il. What would he know you as? 456 Gino. Do you have any other criminal convictions? One prior previous cocaine, possession of cocaine, powder cocaine again. State case or federal case? It was a state case. Do you remember ballpark when you got that conviction? Around 95, 96. Is that case all done, meaning whatever sentence you got, you finished? Correct. Anything else? A lot of driving on suspended license, that's it. In terms of felonies, that's all. Which you remember is the cocaine conviction from the state of Virginia in 1996, and then your guilty plea in federal court in Virginia. When did you plead guilty? Just month and year. For this case that I'm currently locked up on? Yes, sir. 04, September 04. You've been in custody since then? Yes, I have. Mr. Hamilton, what is your hope or expectation as a result of your testimony here today? I have no hope or expectation, just to be honest about all my previous activities, which was part of when I took my plea agreement, was to accept responsibility of my actions or my previous actions as well. I may not have asked the question well. Do you believe that there's a possibility that you might receive a sentence reduction in exchange for your truthful testimony? Yes. Who is the person who, if you know, would decide ultimately whether or not your sentence should be reduced? Judge Hudson. Who is Judge Hudson? The judge in Virginia. Federal judge? Federal judge in Virginia. This is Judge Evans. She's the judge presiding over this case, also a federal district court judge. Does she have anything to do with your case? No, she does not. Was I the prosecutor in your federal case in Virginia? No, you were not. Ms. Shansman? No, she was not. What's your understanding of what happens to you and any expectation you may have of a sentence reduction if it's demonstrated that your testimony is not truthful? Nothing. Meaning? That I get nothing. I receive nothing. The only expectation is just left up to Judge Hudson. He hasn't determined anything. Let's talk about your knowledge about the defendant and life in Atlanta. Where did you grow up? I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. After you finished school, however far you went in school, did you end up settling down? I settled down in Richmond, Virginia, and then Atlanta, Georgia as well. When did you come to Atlanta? I used to visit Atlanta a lot around 98, 99. I moved to Atlanta to currently reside in Atlanta around 2001. What was it that brought you down to Atlanta when you said in 98, 99 you'd come to visit? Just to come to parties, socialize, just hang out? What was in Atlanta that wasn't in Richmond? A lot of strip clubs, a lot of parties, just a lot of extra activities. At the time you moved down to Atlanta, what line of work were you in? Promoting parties, just doing shows, illegal activities, no specific line of work? We'll get to the illegal activities in a second. Explain to the jury what you mean by promoting parties. Basically like doing just shows, booking shows, having, getting the venue and having people come to your venue to perform shows or just to do a party. Okay. And you would try to arrange those types of things here in Atlanta? Yes, I would. Had you met the defendant before you moved here permanently? In other words, at some of these parties you'd attended in 98, 99, 2000, did you ever come across the defendant? Yes, I have. And in what context, meaning you were at Piedmont Park walking around or? Well, just that's how we met. We met through close associates. He know close associates that I have known through party venues and party aspects. And just over the course of time, we built a friendship, a bond just through the parties. How would you keep in touch with Defendant Daniels when you went back to Virginia? This is the time when you were doing the party commute down to Atlanta? Page or phone. Whenever I come down, that's when I really used to see him and hang out like that. As far as keeping in a close contact with him outside of that, it really wasn't too much, but just whenever I came to town, whenever he was in a party, together. So he didn't come up to visit you in Richmond? No, he didn't. When you'd come to Atlanta, would you look him up, shoot him a page, Gino's in town? It didn't even have to be like that. It was just wherever we be at. It was just automatically, naturally, he was going to be at the functions or just be around. Okay, you mentioned when you were explaining the lines of work you were in, you said there was some illegal activities. What did you mean by that? And let's just take 2000. In 2000, what were you doing that you believed was illegal? Just selling a lot of marijuana. What do you mean by a lot? 100, 200 pounds per week. Was that going on in Virginia or down here in Atlanta? Just in Virginia. So you moved down here 2000, 2001. Did you see the defendant more frequently once you moved down here? Yes, I did. Because when I moved down to Atlanta, we went out or went to parties or went to clubs every night. So, every night I would see him. Did you notice any change in the defendant's appearance and demeanor and whatnot as time went on as you'd see him at these parties or social events? Yes. Over the course of time, you could really just see a change. I could see him come up. When I first met him, he didn't have a lot of jewelry and all that. But as time progressed, I was really like, you coming up in the game. You could tell the demeanor, cars, driving, jewelry. You could tell just by a person's status, the image, just outward appearance of, possessions that money brings. Did you notice that the crowd in which he moved, the people he was spending time with in these clubs, did that change as well? Oh yeah, most definitely. He moved with a larger crew, a bigger crew. Did you ever become familiar with the name or identity of this new larger crew? Yes, they was known as BMF, Black Mafia Family. When you first met the defendant in these clubs, 98, 99, was he with the BMF? No, he wasn't. Just so we're clear, the things that you identified the defendant coming up, you said better jewelry. What do you mean by that? Larger gold chains, diamonds, a lot of money, spending more money in the club. How do you know if someone is spending money in the club? Anytime you're buying Cristal bottles, just the whole everything, you could just tell because a bottle of Cristal costs a lot of money. Okay, I don't know. How much does a bottle of Cristal cost? 700 for a bottle. Did you ever have a conversation with the defendant about his newer image? I didn't really have no direct conversation like, about, oh, look, you're coming up or whatever like that. Nothing that extreme, but, you could just tell. Your car looking nice, doing good, you could just tell. It's just something that you have a rapport with when you were dealing with people and have an association with people over a course of time. You could just tell. Did you ever have a conversation with the defendant where you expressed any concerns that his image might be getting too big? Yes, I could recall a time in Miami one time when I was there and I was like, man, you don't think hanging with that crowd is just going to crash you into a wall or lead to a dead end or something? Because they was real flamboyant and, it was like go hard or go home or death before dishonor. Which part did you say and which part did the defendant say if he said anything at all? That was his reply, go hard or go home or death before dishonor. What was it you were trying to tell him by saying? In the conversation, I just was like, we was on the porch of the hotel and we was just talking and we was like, it was a conversation just about being flamboyant, being out there with the association of BMF and how hard they going, knowing that, that it may end one day real soon. Tell the jurors what you mean by going hard and end. I mean, I could wear a blue mink coat every day, but I'm not going to get arrested for that. Exactly. I understand. Really, I have seen a lot of people spend a lot of money over my course of time being in the party scene, being in the streets, or being, selling, being a drug dealer as well. But I've never seen nobody go extremely as hard as the Black Mafia family in terms of spending money, in terms of just being everything flashy on Front Street all the time. That was something over the course of time I had never really seen anything like that. So that's what I mean by going hard or just really flamboyant. Did you attend a 30th birthday party for Defendant Daniels? Yes, I did. May I approach, Judge? Yes. I'm going to show you what have already been admitted as government exhibits 23A through D. If you could take a look at those. Do you recognize those photos? Yes, I do. Are you actually depicted in at least one, maybe two of these photos? Yes, I am. Were you at the event that is shown in those 4 photos? Yes, I was. Are those fair and accurate depictions of some of what was going on that night for the defendant's 30th birthday? Exactly. Judge, the government tenders exhibits 23A through D. No objection. They are admitted. Let me get those from you. This is government's 23A, Mr. Hamilton. What do we see here? That's a boat, a party boat. It is a boat. What does that boat have to do with the 30th birthday for the defendant Daniels? Actually, we rented the whole boat out for the party. Where is that boat? Where was it located? I believe Stone Mountain. The lake at Stone Mountain? Exactly. You were on that boat that night? Oh, no question. 23B, is that Stone Mountain there in the background, that big piece of rock? Yes, it is. This is 23C. Who is in that picture? That's me. You were a little different size back then? Much larger size. Girth, not height? Exactly. Okay, and finally, 23D, Mr. Hamilton. Who is in the 81 Andre Rison? That's not Andre Rison, but his jersey? That's ill. That's ill, the defendant? Yes. Okay, are you somewhere in this picture? It's kind of dim. When the jurors look at the physical picture, they'll see it better. I'm directly behind him with the hat and with the cup in my hand. The guy here? Exactly. That's your hand that's holding some cup? Yes, it is. Were you invited to the defendant's 30th birthday party or did you crash it? I didn't have to be invited. I was there. It was his birthday. Everyone knew I was going to be there. Okay, no one asked you to leave? No. Did you ever get a fake Tennessee driver's license? I mean, one that's legit, give it to the police, it might work, but it doesn't have your name and your vital signs? Yes, I did, a Tennessee driver's license. I want to show you government's exhibits 14A through C. Before we talk about those, tell the jurors a little bit about how you got your fake Tennessee driver's license. What happened? How I got it from Tennessee. He had the hookup with his family member worked in the Tennessee driver's license. Do you remember the name of the guy who had the hookup? Taz. Taz. Okay, so that's the connect? Exactly. He just come down to Atlanta and hand you the license, or what happened? No, we would have to go up to, I forget what city, Nashville, Tennessee, and go exactly into the DMV, get the license, give him the money, and we just get the driver's license. How much did you pay for your driver's license? I believe I might have paid $1,800 to $1,000. Did you go up there by yourself or with someone? We went up there with a group of people, but when I first went and a group of people. Do you remember anyone in that group? Ill went, another guy, an old man in the van. When you say ill, you mean the defendant Daniels? Yes. You call him whatever you want. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same person. Exactly. You said, oh, man, or an older man, an older gentleman. All of us went at this particular time. Okay, what is 14A? 14A is the driver's license of me. That's the one you got? Exactly. And 14C? Another driver's license. Okay, and what's 14B, there in the middle? The application for the driver's license. Is that what you signed to get the license? Exactly. Judge, the government tenders government's exhibit 14A through C. No objection. They're admitted. This is 14A. Okay. The name is your name? Exactly. Okay, but did you live at 3812 Tiger Belt? No, I did not. Never been there. Are you 5'7"? Yes. Is that your social security number? No, it is not. There is a date of birth over there, 9/27/1970. Is that your date of birth? No, it is not. But that's the license you got? Yes. All right, let's look real quickly at that. There's an issue date on there. What's the issue date? 9/8/2003. Okay, here's another driver's license with your picture on it. Does it have the same issue date? No, it does not. It also has a DUP up in the corner. What is this about? Did you get a second one? Yes, I did. I lost my previous one. Did you have to go back up to Tennessee to do that? Yes. The application. We don't need to put that up on the screen. Is that something you signed and presented to whoever this woman was at the DMV? Yes, it is. The money that you paid, you said it was $800 or a G. Did you hand that money to the woman at the DMV or to Taz? I handed it to Taz. Okay, here's one of the driver's licenses. All right, what's the name on that driver's license? Paul Jackson. Who's in the picture? The defendant, Il Fleming. Il. You've described Il Fleming, the defendant. He's in court today. You don't have to point. Just describe what he's wearing. A white dress shirt with a tie? No jacket? No jacket. Let the record reflect that's the defendant in this case. Paul Jackson. Really, it's the defendant. Got a driver's license on what date? What's the issue date? 9/8/2003. That's when you were getting yours as well? Exactly. Did you need to give the DMV, whether you gave it to the woman who gave you the license or someone else, some normal fee to get the license? No, we did not. You don't recall? No, I don't recall. I don't think we had to pay her. We just had to pay Taz. Pardon me? We didn't have to pay the lady at the DMV. We just had to give the money to Taz. Okay, when you were in Atlanta, this is after you moved here, you mentioned that you were a party promoter. Were you still running the marijuana business up in Richmond, Virginia? Yes, I was. Would you periodically go back there to deal with the line of work? Yes, I did. Did you try to start up any other legit business in Atlanta besides the party promotion? Yes, I started a magazine while I was in Atlanta called In Touch Magazine. What was In Touch supposed to be about? In Touch Magazine was a local urban magazine, an upscale urban magazine. What's an upscale urban magazine? The magazine In Touch was just a local magazine, hip-hop magazine to the hip-hop culture. When were you arrested in your federal case, the one you're serving time for now? I was arrested in September 2004. And you pled in September 2004, so that happened pretty quickly? Yeah, exactly. Did you manage to get any issues of In Touch out before you were arrested? Yes, I did. I show you Government's Exhibit 24. Do you recognize that? Yes, this is my magazine. You say your magazine. How many issues of In Touch were there? 10,000 copies. That's copies, but how many issues? One issue. Is that a copy of the first and last issue? Yes, it is. Judge, the government tenders Exhibit 24. Actually, ma'am, can I look at it first and spend a minute because I think there may be some articles. We'll come back to it. I'll defer ruling on it. We'll come back to Exhibit 24. Tell the jurors what happened and let them know when it happened that you got into the cocaine business that you're now serving time for. Not the old one from 1996, but the current one. How I got involved? Please. Well, I was in Virginia selling weed, a lot of weed, and living in Atlanta. Some people in Virginia they wanted possession of some powder cocaine, but they knew I probably could get a good price for it for them. So, a female in Virginia was asking me, or a couple of people in Virginia was asking me about different prices. Let me stop you for a second. These people who are asking you for powder cocaine, are they also marijuana customers of yours? Yes, they are. And you mentioned that you sold hundreds of pounds of marijuana. Were you selling it in individual use quantities or bulk? So your customers would then resell it in smaller quantities? Exactly. So one of your bulk marijuana customers or several wanted cocaine? Correct. Right. Were they asking you for bulk quantities of cocaine or I need a $10 hit? Oh, no, it was a key or better, a kilo. A key is a kilo of cocaine. Kilogram? No. Yeah, kilogram. Okay, so people in Virginia are asking you about prices? Yeah. Did you try to source it up in Virginia where you do your business? No, I did not. Okay, what did you do in response to your marijuana customers' request for bulk cocaine? Well, when I was in Atlanta, I already knew people who was already selling a lot of cocaine anyway. So being in the club scene, I already knew who was selling and doing what was going on with it. So all I had to do was just ask around about it for a good number to get a good price, and it was just easy access. When you say a good number, you're referring to the price for the brick or kilo? Exactly. Okay, so who did you ask here in Atlanta for a number, meaning a price for a brick of cocaine? I asked Ill. The defendant in this case? Yes. How do you do something like that? Do you send him a letter or where did that happen? It probably happened in a club. More than likely it happened in a club. There was no big thing like you asked in a letter or anything like that. It was just in general conversation we had. We'd be drinking or doing something. Look, you got a good number on those things? I didn't really have to specify it, but he knew what I was talking about. So he was like, yeah, he could give me a good number on some kilos of cocaine. So when you say he knew what you were talking about, did Defendant Daniels look at you confused when you said, "Do you have a good number?" No, not at all. Did he tell you, "I don't know what you're talking about"? No, not at all. Did he in fact get back to you with a number? Yeah, he told me what the number was off the top. What was the number? Like 18.5. What does that mean? 18,500. 4? 1. 1 kilo of cocaine? Yes. Were you familiar enough with the going price for a kilo to know if that was a good deal or a bad deal? Yes. And what was your assessment of that number? That was a great number. So far, we have Defendant Daniels giving you a number. Did your possible business relationship with the defendant move beyond just talking about numbers? Yes, it did. What was the next thing that happened? Well, eventually, whenever I was ready to purchase it or to get it, I was just to hit him up, call him up, and we'll do it whenever we have the chance. Okay, when you say you'd call him up, what would be the kind of thing you'd say? "Dear sir, I need 4 kilograms of cocaine." No, you don't ever talk like that on the telephone or anything like that. It was just basically when I can link up with you. When can I get that? I'm ready to do this, something on those lines like that. Okay, using your arrest in Virginia for your federal case in September '04 as an anchor date, how far back in time are we talking about that you first had this conversation in some club somewhere with the defendant about whether he's got a good number for you? Maybe 9 months before that, 8, 9 months, something like that. So late 2003, early 2004? Exactly. I want to talk about any specific transactions that you recall, but let me ask this first. Did you in fact end up getting bricks of cocaine from Defendant Daniels? Yes, I did. Tell the jurors about any specific instances, meaning transactions that you recall. We'll do them one at a time. One time he came to my office. Okay, let's stop right there. You had an office where in Atlanta? Briarcliff Road, I believe. What was your office for? It was for my magazine and the party promotion. All right, did he just happen by or did you call him? I called him. I called him up and told him, let's get together. And he was like, where was I at? I was like, at the office. He knew where the office was. He came by the office. Did he come by himself or with other people? By himself. Did you actually do the transaction then, meaning he had the product with him? Yes. Tell the jurors what you remember. I just remember him coming in the office. I was behind my desk. He had a knapsack, some bricks in a knapsack. It was like how many I needed, or I could get whatever I wanted. He gave me 2 and that was it. We talked a little bit and he just left. Did you have to pay him then, or did he front it to you? I would pay like maybe for one up front and then I'd just pay the balance for the other one later. Was that typical for the transaction you did with Defendant Daniels? Yes, it was. When you paid him up front, the initial payment was Amex, Visa? No, it was straight cash. Would Defendant Daniels count the cash in front of you? No, he wouldn't. So you'd get the bricks from Defendant Daniels? Yes. Describe for the jurors what one of these bricks looks like. Square, about like this, that high. I think there's a gray tissue box there. In relation to that, big, smaller, wider, shorter? Maybe like about this much bigger, about that height. Okay, and is it just cocaine or is it wrapped in something? It's just wrapped in plastic, a lot of plastic. What would you do with these bricks when you'd get them? Have somebody bring them up to Virginia? You didn't drive them back up to Virginia? No, I didn't. Why not? Because I wasn't trying to transport the cocaine up the highway. Would you have transportation already arranged before you called Defendant Daniels, or? Yes. Did you prepare that later? No, it would be arranged before I spoke to him. So someone else drives the cocaine up to Virginia? Correct. How do you get your money for the sale of those bricks? Whenever I went back to VA to handle my other illegal activities, just the person I would just pick it up when I was in Virginia. You make me nervous every time you say your other illegal activity. The weed. I was just speaking about the weed. Okay, there isn't anything else out there? No. So you'd go back to Virginia to deal with the marijuana business? Exactly. And collect your cocaine proceeds? Exactly.